Hello and welcome to News9 and you are watching On Point with me. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and we have 3 On Points lined up for you. In On Point 1, we discuss BJP's historic Bengal victory that has ended Mamata's 15-year rule. We decode Mamata's defeat with this professor, Dr. Ashwani Kumar. In On Point 2, we discuss Vijay's blockbuster debut that has shaken Tamil Nadu politics. TVK just 10 seats away from power. Will Alliance crown him CM or trigger a political chess match? In On Point 3, we decode Tamil Nadu's political shift with Congress MP Karthi Chidambaram. And now let's take a quick look at the headlines. Mamata Banerjee, defiant in defeat, says will not tender resignation, claims TMC did not lose despite forceful bid to defeat us. Vijay thanks Prime Minister Modi, Rahul Gandhi for their wishes on Tamil Nadu win, says well-being of our people remains our only goal. Home Minister Amit Shah appointed Central Observer for Bengal, JP Nadda for Assam after Assembly election victory. BJP government in West Bengal to take oath on May 9th, coinciding with Rabindranath Tagore's birthday. Now let's talk about Bengal. Khela, hobe was Mamata Banerjee's battle cry for years, but this time Khela, hoye, geche, and not in the way TMC expected. The unthinkable has happened. The Lotus has bloomed in West Bengal, ending 15 years of Trinamool dominance and making a historical BJP breakthrough. From 77 seats in 2021 to clear majority in 2026. How did the BJP flip the script? Joining me now to decode Mamata's defeat is Professor Ashwini Kumar, who is right now in the University of Indianapolis. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. Let me straight away begin by asking you, how did Mamata lose the script? Are we missing the big picture? Has the ground shifted? Is this the second republic we are talking about?
But Kartikeya, one thing is very clear that TMC did not realize the silent tsunami. I mean, like that's very clear from the historic and massive defeat for the TMC. TMC was on the verge of being decimated, but they did not realize it. Also, if you look at the verdict and decode it, it's not a simple arithmetic in terms of anti-incumbency. There is some larger shift that has taken place in West Bengal if you historically examine. I mean, like I also look at this verdict in terms of nationalization of regional politics and also in terms of the party system. BJP is moving into establishing, despite the reduced majority at the center, towards a much more dominant regional system. That's very clear, that this verdict, and also don't forget that the Calcutta and Bengal where the Khela hobe, and I'm looking at where sindoor meets like if you look at saffron. So this is a huge cultural shift. On your channel we debated last year extensively about Vande Mataram, and this is where you could look at the kind of this is not a simple Hindu vote consolidation in terms of demographic anxieties, etc., as many analysts have been talking about. I think Bengal is on the cusp of a major shift in terms of the rise and decline of the single party system. Historically, whosoever loses Bengal will never come back to power, structurally speaking. Look at Congress, look at left.
What sort of hegemony are we witnessing? Is this electoral hegemony? Is this cultural hegemony? What sort of hegemony are we witnessing today in comparison to the Congress hegemony of 50s and 60s?
I think I would like to use a much more, softer term, as Professor Kothari has been, pretty much relevant here too, Rajni Kothari. I think more than hegemony, I think it's a dominance, Karthik. If you look at dominance, I guess, and Bengal, if you look at, where BJP's last frontier, we have covered, Bihar, and we have looked at how East, Assam, the consolidation has taken place. Bihar is also, moving towards a BJP dominant, political system. So Bengal was waiting to happen. And this has happened, in terms of the last frontier, more than significant than the southern, hemisphere for BJP. So this dominance in the fourth party system where BJP, becoming more and more resilient and resurgent, perhaps no other election has given BJP such resurgence and resilience than the winning Bengal, Kartikeya. That has to be, accepted. Right from the people have been talking about Anushailan Samiti. People have been talking about, Syama Prasad Mukherjee. Let's not forget that people have been talking about unfinished, agenda of addressing the anxieties of the refugees, the settlers, So there is also, memory factor, and this is where I'm using the lens of culture. I'm using, how BJP tapped into that.
Is this victory also about unresolved issues of 1947?
Indeed. That is where I'm if you look at, the way, Bengal's Bhadralok and the new generation and see the spread of BJP's decisive mandate across constituencies, building this cross-cutting, class, region and communities coalition. BJP has successfully tapped into the, historical grievances, going back to the colonial, politics. And over time, so this is where, the Calcutta becomes, so significant. Although TMC has retained significant support, across constituencies and will continue to remain a player. But this victory, the Calcutta victory, once again, symbolizes where India is heading towards, You cannot just forget, the large cultural shift, and demographic shift that has to happen. And this is where, given the BJP's, machine, the political machine, the electoral machine, it would not have happened if the Bengalis have not supported. Look at the jhalmuri and the eating fish in public, Kartikeya. This is where, I call it more adaptive, more pragmatic Hindutva rather than a more purer form of Hindutva. So winning Bengal also gives a certain resilience to the idea, the more monolithic, purer idea of Hindutva as has been debated in liberal circles, in Delhi and other places. So on the ground, BJP seems to be, tapping into, as you rightly mentioned, unresolved post-partisan anxieties and issues.
Professor, what happens to the regional parties then? In our larger federal framework, we are talking about dominance of BJP, but what about the consequence of this pure dominance?
I mean, you see that, this is where, Tamil Nadu election needs understanding, an exploration. Somewhere, Tamil Nadu election is very closer to what happened in Nepal, A young man, the Vijay comes from nowhere and winning sweeping, So on the one hand, I would like to suggest here, looking at the structure of politics that is being changed, is the already, dominant regional parties will become more and more defensive from the Bengal victory of BJP. But there is still a space for, where the regional parties will continue to remain important. It is not going to be a replica of the Congress system, in the first party system. This is going to be very different, more polarized, more volatile. And what I would suggest and repeat again and again is the nationalization of regional politics, Kartikeya. That is happening, If you look at three things, welfare, nationalization, this is no longer, DMK lost badly, because, they did not, leverage their fabled, machine.
Professor Ashwini Kumar, a lot of people say this is Second Republic.
A Second Republic is certainly, on the cusp, But there are limits to this Second Republic, To become Second Republic, you have to move from dominance to hegemony. Almost like, what is called, in party system literature is becoming more integrative dominance. But if you look at, the regional party situation, regional party landscape, this is not a more integrative dominance. It is more, like fragmented, dominance.
Can I also say that now, like for example, Nehruvian socialism was center, Hindutva was a periphery. Hindutva is the center, and Nehruvian and socialism and the left is the periphery in Indian politics today?
Yeah, look at, what has happened to left almost after 50 years. There is nowhere left is in power. So indeed, if you look at, and this takes us back to, the Congress system and the Congress dominance, literally Congress hegemony. In that way, as I have mentioned earlier in my pieces and writings, BJP seems to replicate, what Congress has done in its heydays, with a difference, Difference in the sense that BJP's politics is far more, and also moving BJP from, ordinary, everyday cultural politics to a far more resurgent nationalist and civilizational politics. So if you look at, Vivekanand, the use of Vivekanand, and also Subhas Bose, so, and Vande Mataram, and tapping into, going back to Anushilan Samiti, going back to, see, there is a commonality between Anushilan Samiti and the BJP and RSS. The focus on discipline, the focus on cadre, the focus on, nationalism, a militant youth nationalism. And this is BJP, this is where the Second Republic logic makes more and more sense,
So we are talking about a changed Indian political temperament, not just an electoral temperament, changed Indian political temperament.
Very well said. I think it looks like if you look at Alpha generation, Generation G, and also the aspirational middle classes, seems that, looking at, 600, 800 million middle classes in India, India is heading towards a far more structural transformation of its temperament, emotion. See, Bengal, Kartike, everything is so emotional. Everything is so volatile. So if here the temperament changes, and volatility will continue, for a while.
What happens to the Congress? Is finished? Run its course?
I didn't hear you.
What happens to the Congress? Is it over? As the party run its course?
If you look at Kerala, Congress has been pushed to, I'm just remembering Rajni Kothari's phrase, when the opposition's party function more as a pressure group, Congress will remain, but less as a national party, more as a regional party. This is where a qualitative shift from the traditional understanding of the regional party. Congress winning in places like Kerala, Congress continues to remain, relevant in places like...
in Assam, Professor, 99% of the candidates who won from Congress are Muslims.
Same like TMC. If you look at TMC, 42% Karthike with 40%. And this is where those who are saying, about Muslim disenfranchisement, that's not true, Neither SIR. So Congress is being pushed into, this so-called minority confessional voting. But, it will become far more regionalized, And this is a danger also, and this is also advantage, If Congress can aggregate well this regionalization and leverage this regionalization, there is a possibility to return to third party system. Means that Congress is becoming more and more coalitional in its nature rather than nationally dominant, Karthike. That's very clear.
And lastly, the leadership and the party organization are tight. Do you think that this expansion of BJP is limited to Modi Shah era, or this goes beyond them now?
I think if you look at, the Bihari connection, BJP and RSS together, cultivating young people. And this I can see that, BJP, RSS together ready for a more transformative youth leadership compared to other political parties.
Okay.
And here, Karthike, that's a very big news for those who are watching the Bengal massive victory for BJP.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for joining me from Indianapolis and breaking down this historic win of Bharatiya Janata Party. Thank you so much. This was On Point 1, but don't go away. After the break, I'll come back. In On Point 2, we'll talk about will Congress support Vijay in Tamil Nadu with others.
बेबो का एक ही रूल, रोज खाओ अंडे विदाउट भूल।
Cause eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Summer में एनर्जी हो जाती है कम, खाओ अंडे एनर्जेटिक रहो हरदम, स्ट्रेंथ और पावर मिले।